This week we're reading a quart of sorry. I don't know, there was just like okay. This week we're reading A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas, otherwise known as Sarah, You Saucy Dog.
Hi readers, I'm Jordan.
And I'm Katie.
And welcome to Not Another Heroine, the podcast where we break down the best and worst fictional heroines, those swashbuckling ladies who have to work a little harder than expected for their happy ending.
Want to see what's next on our TBR list? Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Instagram for a sneak peek at upcoming content or to help us pick our next book. ACOMAF takes a lot out of you.
It's because it's 600 fucking pages long. That's why.
That is 100% fair.
This book is not appropriate for young readers.
Yeah.
Page 21.
I feel like you guys already know what we're talking about, but like it's 3% in, you have a sex scene. Like that's audacious.
And not just a sex scene. It is
a sex scene.
Like everything is described.
Yeah. And I kind of wonder, like, what do you think Sarah's intention was with that? Because that's a bold move.
It felt grody.
Yeah. That's why I almost wonder, like, you brought it up, I think, a while ago, or maybe when we first started the whole adventure, but this is really meant to be one giant book. And that would kind of make sense, because that would put you at the, like 45% mark is where you'd have another sex scene.
That's true, because it's they have it in ACOTAR, but it's not nearly as descriptive as this one.
No, and it's at the end, like almost full end.
So, yeah, that's a good point, actually.
Yeah.
If this was supposed to be like chapter 35 of ACOTAR.
Yeah. Because this is page, it's like 3% in.
Yeah. Okay.
And I am getting like penis descriptions. You know what I mean? Like I'm not emotionally prepared for that.
I was not prepared for you to say that into a microphone.
I mean,
it's there.
It is. I can't even think of other words, but she always, that's the one thing I don't like about Sarah's writing of like sex scenes, I will say, is she has the funkiest like descriptions of male anatomy.
You've seen 10 Things I Hate About You, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the principal writing her romance novel in the office.
That's Sarah J. Maas.
That's it right there.
100%. She's like, what's a synonym for
engorged member?
That's Sarah on a daily basis. But yeah, it felt a little bit violent that at 3% into this book, I am treated to.
I wonder if it's like a bait and switch for readers who are more into the romance or more into the smut, because then there's no sex for like hundreds of pages. There's no romance.
That is true. I didn't think about this because like the next sex scene isn't until chapter 55. They're like,
like 300 pages in.
Wow. That is kind of interesting, but it still felt
gross.
Yeah. And I almost wonder if that was intentional in the like, see, everything is fine, but it's not fine.
Mm-hmm.
But it was also like,
well, okay, so getting into what actually happens when we start with ACOMAF.
Yeah.
Feyre is not in a good place.
She's So I will say the first time I read this where she like launches out of bed, she vomits into a porcelain toilet, which we will probably address that.
We will have to talk about the toilets later.
Yeah. Yep. I thought she was pregnant. And I was like, that's a wild start. But then she's like, I'm like nightmares or whatever. And I'm like, are you having nightmares and you're pregnant, or like the nightmares are causing you to vomit?
That's a good point.
Yeah, because the first time I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna have a baby. That's a really aggressive turn there, Sarah. I don't know how you're gonna.
Interesting twist for the plot there.
Yeah.
Because especially knowing what we know about,
yeah,
that could have been really good.
Yeah. Because especially, I feel like a lot of people don't like pregnancy in books, but it's always, I 100% don't either. Like that's 100% a turn off, but it would be interesting. I feel like if anyone could do it interestingly, it'd be Sarah. But then I was down in, book 5.
Oh, yeah.
When it actually happens and you're like, what the fuck is this?
It could have been so much more like conflict had she been pregnant.
Yeah.
But I think it is a good device to point out how Feyre uses sex again as a coping mechanism, because that's very much not even just hinted at, it's displayed in ACOTAR and again here.
Yeah.
Because she's having these violent nightmares. She can't sleep through the night. She can barely eat. And when she does eat, gets thrown up. And Tamlin's just like taking a nap. Tamlin's like, yeah, so we're going to have sex and I'm going to sleep and then you're going to be sick and we're going to be fine.
Yep. And that was such a well played, just fucking 3-pointer right there by Sarah that with very little effort, she makes us immediately be like, Tamlin, what the fuck? And then just builds on it. I don't think there's any other kind of plot device that you could immediately use that quickly, that efficiently, and have you already not like the male character, except of you didn't rub my back when I was vomiting?
But also dislike him and understand him all at the same time. Yeah. Because it's also noted during this, because Feyre's having nightmares about her time under the mountain. So was Tamlin, because he was there a lot longer than she was. So God knows what happened to him. So he's also suffering. And on another note, I can relate, which is if I'm puking my guts out, don't fucking touch me. Don't even come near me. I don't want to be seen.
Yeah.
So how do you tell, from a caretaker perspective, what the person actually needs and wants to make them feel better?
Yeah, and especially if they're not communicating, which is alluded to in almost this whole fucking 13 chapters at the start, is that they're not actually talking about anything.
They're just having great sex and that's it.
And it's I get that as a coping mechanism to just we're just gonna pretend like it didn't happen and not talk about it and pretend like everything's good. But it's you have some skeletons in the closet that need to be addressed.
Yeah, and that's all this first part is them preparing for the wedding, because they're getting married. And we're dropped into that. So Feyre's not happy. What did you just...
Okay, so you know how in modern romances they have it's called the third act breakup or whatever, and most of the time it could be fixed by actual communication skills.
Yep, this
is it. So if this was one book, this would be Act 3, miscommunication breakup, and if they had one conversation, it would probably fix most things.
Oh, and they also introduced the secondary love interest as competition. What's her name? Yeah, this could have just been a straight up Tamlin and Feyre romance novel if they ended it 4 or 5 chapters into this book with the right communication.
Yeah. Huh. I feel
you had
broke my brain.
The realization that came over your face.
Wow.
Interesting.
Because frankly, if they just got in front of a therapist, I feel they probably could have worked out their issues.
Well, maybe, because it's talked about later how Feyre mentions that Tamlin, and we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves into spoilerland, but come on, if you haven't read ACOMAF yet, you're setting yourself up for this.
Yeah.
That Tamlin was the right person for her, for who she was at a different time in her life. But with her new experiences, post Under the Mountain, she's not the same person anymore, so she's not compatible with who Tamlin is.
Yeah. And it's kind of interesting, too, because the first time I read this, I almost felt like it was a Tamlin character assassination.
Yeah, I got that.
Yeah, because it kind of felt too aggressive of a turn. He was obviously traumatized by what happened under the mountain, but I didn't think it was quite a realistic shift that he would jump into being overprotective and not let her do anything.
Yeah, so that's getting back into that. Feyre is wedding planning, and it's coming up soon, but she's not allowed to leave the house, basically, or the grounds.
Yeah, without a full retinue of guards, and even then it's not really, you need to stay here because it's dangerous.
Because it's hinted that there's war bands or raiding parties or something.
And there's still all the baddies floating around.
Yeah, from Under the Mountain, legacies of Amarantha. So Tamlin's protecting her from that. So yeah, you're right. It's the combination of Tamlin being super overprotective, which in ACOTAR, he was letting her and Lucien gallop into the woods.
Yeah.
And go hunting.
Yeah. Multiple times. She did all kinds of reckless shit and he was unfazed.
She hunted the boggart thing.
Yeah, the bogey, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was multiple. So I have questions.
This is weird.
Yeah. Because especially now that, and I get that probably watching her death was extremely traumatic. And now it's I'm not going to let anything happen.
But now she's immortal.
Yeah, exactly. She has a full crazy, super strong body. There's one part in it where she says he surprises her and she hits him and he falls or something.
Yeah, she punches the shit out of him and he can't take it.
So it's
good.
You know she's strong. Like, what are you really like worried about? So it was confusing, but not unbelievable, I guess.
Yeah.
But just kind of like, what?
But also this bitch. Eon, how do you say her name?
I don't know. Ianthe or
yeah,
whatever.
So she is an easy character to hate.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
She's like Amarantha round 2, but smarter.
Yeah, like more
Clever.
conniving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she's described, she's a high priestess of whatever faith thing that the high fae have.
But she's young and hot.
Yep. And she wears like hot priestess clothes and not nun clothes.
Yep. It's like, wait a second, what kind of like nun convent are you from?
And she's inserted herself into like the Spring Court household as like an advisor to Tamlin and a bestie to Feyre, especially because Feyre is in this place where she doesn't want to make any decisions. She's depressed. Yeah. She's in like the midst of a depressive spiral.
Yeah.
And she doesn't really care about anything. And so Ianthe is making all the decisions regarding the wedding planning and like even what Feyre wears.
Yeah. But in that kind of like crutch way where Feyre could make a decision, but she's just so like tired and depressed that Ianthe probably or is conveyed as, you know, doing her a solid and like helping her recover and like, I get you can't do it right now, but like, let me just help you and like, oh, you should wear this and oh, these people are doing this and like, oh, you don't have to worry about that. I'll handle it. But it's like you're enabling her instead of helping her.
And the background on this bitch is she
sorry. Jordan's eyes got big.
I don't like her. But she escaped with her family like across the water to a different continent when Amarantha came into power. Yeah.
Big yikes.
And then she came back when everything was hunky-dory. And I got like the impression that she and Tamlin had a thing at some point.
I did too.
Like it's just skeezy.
Yeah. And it's kind of she's not a girl's girl.
No.
Yeah. She's
definitely
like
not.
You know, the girl who
she's like blonde chick from Mean Girls. Like nice on the outside.
Oh, yeah. And like the kind that would like be best friends with your boyfriend, but then like, you know, has all these inside jokes with him and you're like, oh, that kind of makes me uncomfortable. Like this is weird. And she's like, oh no, we're just like guy bros. Like we're just friends.
We're just besties.
And it's like, you sent him like weird pictures and you guys are at the beach all the time and you know like this makes me a little bit uncomfortable. That's her.
Every Reddit thread ever.
Honestly.
Yeah. So
yeah.
And then Lucien kind of plays a backseat role.
Yeah. And it's kind of interesting too because if you take it from the perspective of his own trauma, so he had to watch someone get murdered and that he loved and his lover didn't get brought back to life and now he, you know,
oh god,
Feyre did get brought back to life. His characterization in this makes kind of a lot of sense. Like he feels like he doesn't have a leg to stand on.
Lucien has been a much more sympathetic character than either Tamlin or Feyre throughout ACOTAR. Especially
honestly.
Like, did we talk about his past?
I think we brought it up a little bit, but it's kind of actually like I think talked about more in this almost. Yeah, but he basically fell in love with a lesser fairy, not a high fae, and they loved each other. We're about to run off together, and his dad thought that was an inappropriate like relationship for him to have, and basically like kidnapped the girl and made him watch as the dad and the brothers like murdered her. Yeah.
Oh, Lucy.
Yeah. And then to like watch Feyre die and then Feyre is brought back. And because it would be hard because you'd be a little bit jealous. You'd be like,
you'd be super jealous, like just resentful.
Yeah. But then you're also like, those are my best friends and like I love them and I'm happy for them. But like also like, well, I wish that could have been me.
He's being railroaded by Tamlin.
Yeah.
Like throughout this because they're doing these patrols and Lucien is trying to stand up for Feyre because Feyre is constantly going to Tamlin in this first part of the book. Hey, let me go out and help the village. Let me go on a ride with you. Let me do X, Y, Z. And Tamlin's like, no, it's not safe. No, it's not safe. And Lucy finally is like tries to talk to Tamlin and be like, hey, I'll go with her. Like, we'll make this safe. And he just gets basically backhanded, like, no.
Yeah. And it's, I don't know that I totally appreciated. So I see the foil that, you know, as we kind of get further in the book and we are introduced to Rhys's close friends, they're supposed to be the counterpoint to Lucien of like, if Feyre had needed help in the Court of Dreams or whatever, they would have done anything to help her, and they would have said, fuck you, Rhys, you're being a dick, I'm gonna help her. And then Lucian didn't do that, and so that's like the counterpoint. But it's like, I don't know that that's totally fair. Like, he was trying, but like, what can you do if someone has decided that they're going to like control someone and keep, you know what I mean? Like, besides calling the cops, like.
Yeah, and it also kind of comes into play like how each person defines the boundaries of their friendship and what like that friendship means to them.
Yeah.
So like in the Night Court, Rhys and his friends have a very equal power balance.
Yeah.
But that's their friendship. That's how that developed. That's how that works. And maybe what Lucian values and what Tamlin values in the friendship is like unwavering support and dedication. And that's what Lucian is giving Tamlin.
Yeah. And you also have to think there's a time difference too, because like Rhys and his friends have been buddies for like 500 years minimum. So and Tamlin like wasn't even born then, so like he's a couple 100 years behind. Yeah. So maybe like, you know, in that 400-year mark is when you're like, okay, we're, you know, we equals. I respect your opinion, but like maybe they're not quite there yet. Like that's a long time. That's, you know, half of 1,000 years.
And also, Lucian has got so much baggage.
Yeah, like
he's got to work through some shit before he helps other people.
Yeah. So this like full first 13 chapters is just like an emotional roller coaster, and you like don't feel happy about any of it, but you understand like that it's all happening, but you're like, ugh.
Feyre is, at least to me, she was more relatable and more likable in this first part. It's definitely a different style of reading than ACOTAR.
Yeah.
She is like in a dark, dark place.
And I almost wonder if that's because this is the first opportunity we've been granted to actually see her personality and her like inner thoughts.
And her thoughts about other people.
Yeah. Because we didn't really get any of that in ACOTAR. And it's like, oh, this is who she is, and she's not in a good place right now.
No, but still, it seems kind of flat.
Yeah, it does. Because there's a couple of parts in this like first like chunk of chapters that we're going to talk about in part 1. And she has this kind of like inner reflection at one point where she's talking about, like you mentioned, that, you know, Tamlin was good for her then, but maybe not who she is now. And she has this thing of like, I don't want to just sit and be safe and paint, and I want to go like do things and be involved in things. And like, you can have that, and maybe she changed, but I swear to God, at the beginning of ACOTAR, she literally said, I just want enough money to like live by myself and paint and be safe. So, and like, I get that she maybe had a different, like something changed, but like, well, that significantly?
Yeah, she mentions that after going through the trials into the mountain, like that was supposedly the trigger for that change, that internal change. But it just doesn't seem like it jives.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem realistic. Like, oh, you want to do these life-threatening acts and be in constant danger, and like, who doesn't like a sense of security and calm and
like, what's that, like Maslow's triangle?
Yeah, like you're telling me you don't want to do your favorite hobby in the comfort of your own home, surrounded by wealth and beautiful things, and with the love of someone like Tamlin, like anyone.
Doubts.
Like, that doesn't appeal to you as a person? Like, also not realistic.
Because she also, if she was so like emotionally triggered and destroyed by the, you know, harrowing acts that she did under the mountain, like, why would she want to do more adventurous stuff like that?
You know what I mean? It's weird. And it kind of comes back to what happens after the ending of any of these stories, after any of these fantasy adventures and all of the monsters have been killed and all the evil is wiped out. Like, what do these people do? Hopefully they sit and do their fucking favorite hobby in front of a fire and eat good food and have sex all the time. Like, that's what, like...
I mean, that's our hope.
Like, what more do you want from life?
It is kind of interesting though, because when you talked about that, it kind of matches what happens in New Moon with Bella. Like, we have this, you know, they defeated the evil vampires and now they're safe and happy, but then they have this like weird breakup and she's depressed, and then she tries to do like reckless, adventurous things to like feel something again. So like, maybe that's a trauma response that just
actually, that's valid.
Yeah, but turns into part of your personality.
Never thought I would be referencing New Moon as a good
know, Full circle, here we are.
I did really enjoy, though, in like the midst of her depression and she's arguing with Tamlin, like, hey, take me with you. And like they get into this argument in front of his guards and sentries and all that stuff. But she eventually just caves and says, okay, fine, I'll stay home. And I thought that was really realistic as someone who is in love with someone and like they get into an argument and they don't want one to fight in front of everyone, but two, realizing this person's just trying to protect me, like realizing the intent behind the action or the words. I thought that was really well done. So good job, Feyre.
I know, yeah. Because that's like a really reasonable response. Like, I feel like a lot of people are like conflict avoidant and like you're going to do whatever you need to do to avoid like conflict and angst in your relationships. And so like that's just what she was doing and it made sense until it got to a point where like literally her mortal body, immortal body was.
And it wasn't passive aggressive. It was just okay, this is where we're at right now. This is what I need to do.
And it's crazy too, because she was like willing to accept that to a point of like, okay, you know, maybe sometime in the future we'll be safe and we can do things again, but we're in a period of unrest. Like, I get it. Maybe it's not always going to be this way. That's fine. But then it like didn't.
Yeah. Well, and a different heroine, like, what's the heroine from Throne of Glass?
Aelin.
Aelin would have been like, fuck you, and like left the estate and snuck out and would have like fought that.
Yeah.
So
that's an interesting kind of like character divide between the two, because I kind of feel like Sarah fell in the trap of having all of her characters be pretty similar. Like at the end of this, Feyre and Aelin are almost like indistinguishable.
The way at least the way Feyre develops into somebody like Aelin.
Yeah, which is kind of irritating because like it makes it seem like that's the epitome of like a female heroine, but it's like Feyre now is still a heroine. Like she just doesn't want to do dumb shit. Like, like that's not a bad thing. Well, can we talk about this wedding dress?
Oh
though?
My God. I pictured like the Cinderella wedding.
I did too.
And Feyre hates it.
Yeah. I imagine the one from The Princess and the Frog. The pink dress.
Oh my God.
Yeah. That's exactly what I imagined.
Yes. Oh, also super underrated Disney movie if you haven't seen The Princess and the Frog.
Speaking of such a cute one.
Good heroines. Like the message of that movie is work hard, like, and you can achieve your own dreams all on your own. Yeah.
And we have two like female characters that don't hate each other.
Yeah.
Like, go Disney. Like, what the fuck happened with that one?
And that was their last traditionally like animated. Makes me sad, but
it's fine. But yeah, that wedding dress. Okay, so I'm like a people pleaser. Like, I don't like asserting my opinions about certain things. And I'll be like, okay, if you think this is what's best. So I was the arms are coming out. I was like gesturing.
Violent arms.
I was so triggered by this whole event because like all through high school for like dances and stuff, my mom would pick out dresses and I'm like, I don't really like that, but I guess I'm wearing it because I don't want to like cause a fuss. And she thinks she knows the best and maybe she doesn't know the best.
Do you have pictures?
I don't think I do. Because, you know, when we had that like technology switch in like the 2014, 2015, 2016 timeframe, I like lost all of my pictures from like middle school, which is probably a good thing. But let's be real.
I burnt them all.
Yeah. So it's like when she is basically not bullied by Ianthe, but like not given like you cannot like.
Well, she defers all of the wedding decisions to Ianthe, including the dress, and she's like, it's fine. But she comes up with this
horrifying,
huge like layers of tulle and
yeah. Oh, what's that? The Labyrinth.
The 80s movie?
Yeah, the white dress
David
that
Bowie?
the chick wears.
I don't know. I haven't seen it.
Oh, let me pull up Labyrinth. Everybody else is like, oh, I know exactly what kind of dress this is. White dress scene.
But it's funny because she puts on this dress as like a preview for Tamlin and shows it to him and he laughs. Like he also thinks it's, oh my God.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Yeah, that's the dress because it's described as having the big poofy
the shoulders,
like bell cap sleeves that like touch your ears.
Yep. Okay, yeah. So if you're in the older audience, Labyrinth, the white dress that she wears in the dream scene, because it's just like that doesn't look good on anyone except in the 80s in a movie with David Bowie.
Yeah. So the dress is awful. Yeah. Everyone thinks it's awful. And I'm pretty sure Ianthe picks it to make Feyre look bad.
But it's interesting, though, because she does it in this way that, like, she's supposed to be weaving this tale of, like, lovers who were, torn apart and now they're together and, like, she's the savior of the world, but she's still soft and Tamlin's
She's a damsel.
Yeah. And so I get what she was doing, but also, like, you can do that with a dress that's not ugly.
Yeah.
And then the flower thing.
The red. Oh.
So Feyre's only opinion during all of this wedding planning, during, like, how many people they're going to have in the tables and, like, who's going to sit where and, like, what colors is, I don't want red roses.
Period. Because it looks like blood.
Fair.
Yeah.
I'd be a little bit traumatized.
If you murdered 2 people, you wouldn't want to see blood either.
No. And also, like, bright red clashes with the
white,
like pale pink, white, like
everything.
Blush
that
green.
Bitch did it on purpose. So Feyre is standing at, like, right before the aisle. Everyone's gathered. There's like 300 chairs, and High Priestess Ianthe's at the top. And then she looks down. She sees, like, white rose petals, and then red rose petals, like, streamed across the aisle to, like, make a pool of red rose petal blood at Tamlin's feet.
Like, that doesn't even visually sound like it would look good.
No.
So, like, the intent was
gross.
100% to trigger her into a breakdown.
And it does, because she starts, like, mentally screaming, like, help me, save me.
I will say this scene is one of my, like,
I love this scene.
Favorite. So she is panicking. She's walking down the aisle. She kind of stops, and Tamlin's like, Feyre, like, what's going on? Come here, girl.
Have you seen Runaway Bride?
I don't think so.
Oh my God, please watch it.
But I can imagine the scene.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's what happens. Like, so it's Julia Roberts and Richard Gere, which.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Uh-huh. And she, like, gets halfway down the aisle, and then her eyes get big and she freezes, and then she starts backing up slowly and then bolts.
Yep. That's basically what Feyre does, except she, like, stops, and then she kind of has this, like, depressive, like, screaming internal combustion kind of thing where she's like, can anyone fucking help me? I can't do this. I'm about to say no. And she takes one step back, and Tamlin's eyes kind of scrunch up. And then
the best line ever.
We are blessed. A huge crack of thunder, shadows and whatever.
Darkness.
Mist goes everywhere.
And then the line that every single fantasy romance reader knows.
Please treat me.
Hello, Feyre, darling.
My heart stopped.
I'm hot and sweaty again.
I know. It's something about these fucking books.
It's something about Rhys as a character.
I honestly, because, like, this shouldn't be the scene that gets me hot and sweaty. It should be the, like, sex scene. But,
no.
like, again, it's not.
It's Rhys with all his darkness and bat wings, and he just shows up and
saves her.
Basically, he calls in the debt or the agreement,
the deal they had or whatever. And it's interesting because he gave her a 3-month grace period where he's like, you didn't do anything, didn't reach out, didn't call in the bet. And Feyre's like, okay, this is, like, working out.
Which makes you wonder, like, would he have ever called it in unless she had asked for help? Probably not, because that bitch is terrified too.
Yeah.
Remember at the end of ACOTAR?
Mm-hmm.
Petrified.
Yeah.
He didn't want anything to do with that deal anymore.
No. And it's interesting too, now that you say that, because during the chapter 54, 55, when he's, like, telling her the history of his life or whatever, I think he even says that. He's like, I was prepared to let you marry him and, like, be happy because, like, maybe this was a fluke and, like, we weren't supposed to be together. So, like,
spoiler alert.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I mean, you can assume by our
you already know.
squeals.
Yeah.
So I 100%, yeah, that's a good pointer. Okay. Points to you. Basically just snatches her up and then
everyone disappears. Everyone, including Ianthe.
Yeah.
She's terrified.
Yeah, which is a fun little, like,
and once you know about the history between Ianthe and Rhys, you're like, of course she ran.
Yeah, it's like you should move before you're misted or whatever it is.
Yeah. But he basically spirits, they call it winnowing.
Yeah.
So he winnowed her, like,
away.
Winnowed away. And basically gave Tamlin a gigantic middle finger. He's like, it's deal time.
Yeah. And it is interesting though. So Tamlin is, like, begging but not doing anything because he, like, knows he can't do anything. And it's similar to his reaction with Amarantha or whatever when Feyre was dying, when he was, like, on his knees and he's like, please don't do this. Like, what are you doing? And she, like, kills Feyre anyway. it's like a similar reaction in this point where he's like, I can't do anything, but I'm going to beg.
It's because Tamlin doesn't ever think like more than one step ahead.
Yeah.
If that. He just responds to crisis with action.
Yeah. And I feel like he almost questions his own power to like influence people's decision making.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. It's like an interesting, like, I don't think I like that.
He's just kind of, what did you call him? A himbo?
Yeah, he's a himbo.
Yeah.
But himbos need to stand up for things. They need to have values. He has none. He's just like a not good himbo.
I think Tamlin was done a little dirty in the character development.
He was.
Side.
100%.
He could have been redeemable. Like,
yeah.
And that's what I wish would have happened. It would have made everything seem more realistic.
Yeah. Instead of like, because I just finished this last night, my like 4th reread or something. I've read this way too many times. But that ending switcheroo in the last like 2 chapters makes me so fucking angry, and it comes out of nowhere. It's confusing, and I don't like it.
I haven't finished rereading it.
Oh, just wait. You're going to be trigger girl. I feel like I'm going to get a text message at like 2 o'clock in the morning, and you're going to be like, what? Because it's out of character. It doesn't make sense. And yeah.
Okay. Well,
anyway, Feyre's at the night court.
She goes to the night court, and it's not quite a court. It's more like a palace on the mountains.
Yeah.
It's described, think of the balcony from Princess Jasmine.
Yeah.
Like first Aladdin Disney. And like there's no windows. It's just curtains like billowing. And Rhys tells her, all right, take a nap, eat some food. We're going to chill here for a little while. And she gets put in like the bestest clothes.
I know.
I want these outfits.
I do too. I feel like I have a little bit of like a pooch though. So I don't think this like, Jordan's rolling her eyes at me, but she has not seen said pooch because I wear leggings all the time. High-waisted leggings, let's get that straight. And so the shirts are described as falling like right above the belly button or right below the belly button. Yeah. And then the pants are like, regular length. So there's just a little like skimming of skin. But that's exactly where my pooch is. So it would just be like a cute little like bloop, like toddlers when they wear like little, the pajamas and their shirts kind of right up. That's me. Aww. Little Pooh Bear moment.
That's cute though.
That's fair.
But they're these gauzy, like they're called harem pants, basically.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, that's what they're called.
Yeah, where they cuff at the ankles and they're super billowy.
That's a way better word because I was thinking MC Hammer pants or you know what I mean?
I just pictured Feyre.
Okay, yeah, that's exactly what these are.
Yeah, but she immediately finds them more comfy and cozy and like more her style. But like, so we talked about this before we started recording, which is the culture difference, like the culture clash of the night court. Because the night court, I picture like heavy velvets.
Yeah, because the like description of the terrain is that it's cold and wintry and mountainous.
Like it's a valley tucked in the shadow of snow-capped mountains.
Yeah.
And like this palace thing that she gets dropped into is warm and breezy and almost tropical.
Yeah.
Thus the harem pants and crop top.
Yeah.
It's just
that doesn't make sense.
It's like Sarah had a fantasy over like, what's the best fairyland?
Yeah.
It's going to be dark and brooding because we have to have a dark and brooding hero.
Yeah.
But I want to wear Princess Jasmine clothes.
Yeah. Which I mean, reasonable. Like, but you gotta work a little bit to make it make sense. Yeah. Because like, where would that culturally have come from?
I don't know.
You know what I mean? Because I think Amryn, so we get introduced to her a little bit after this, I think. She's described as wearing the same outfit too. So, like, it's not just a, like, then and there kind of thing. No, it's like everybody.
It's odd.
But, like, where does that, like, how? I feel like that meme of the girl that has, like, all the math going in front of her. She's like, it's 22 degrees outside and there's, like, mountains, but they're wearing crop tops. Like, I understand the desire, but, like, the, freezing thing doesn't make sense.
And did you catch the infinity pool that she has?
I want to go to this as a resort.
It does sound phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah, so her bathtub is an infinity pool off the balcony looking out onto this valley. She only has to stay at the night court for a week. And in this first week that she's there, Rhys just wants her to learn how to read and practice shielding, which is that mental trick to block someone from reading your mind, basically.
In his conversation, like during the reread, you realize how traumatizing this would be because he basically says that she's been shouting at him through their like bargain and he can hear her basically everything that's been happening to her and how depressed she is, and all of her like intimate moments with Tamlin. Like he kind of like was there, because she's basically like shouting at him mentally.
Because their tattoo thing that like she has on her forearm is the bond between her and Rhys, but they also have this mental thing through that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he's been witness to all of her, basically her entire depressive spiral.
Yeah.
He's seen it all. I just need to talk about though. I have praying hands.
She does. I don't know what's about to happen.
I absolutely loved, and maybe this is a little toxic.
I almost spit water everywhere.
When Rhys appears at the wedding,
mm-hmm.
and in this first week at the Night Court,
mm-hmm.
he's constantly described, like his facial expressions are like when he looks at Feyre is
mm-hmm.
just fury or anger or like, and I'm like, oh, why is he angry? But like, obviously he's not angry with her. And then you realize, oh, he's angry because she is basically starving to death and she hasn't slept. And no one around her at the Spring Court has done anything about it.
Yeah.
And so when you see or when you read that Rhys's, his expressions are like this,
mm-hmm.
it's just the most comforting, like,
ooh. Yep. Oh, God. And then when he has his like moments where his like wings kind of like start to like appear into existence, and it's because he can't control his emotions enough, and then he clamps him down and it disappears. It's like, I don't know why that's hot, but
Rhys is like one of the best like heroes, like from a pure romance perspective. I don't want to talk about him as like a person.
Yeah, because there's a little bit of questions, but
or as a character. But like, if you're living in pure fantasy, like romantic fantasy land, like
mm-hmm.
what do you want your dark brooding hero, but still like perfect for the heroine?
Yup.
It's Rhys.
Yup. Because he has this good combination of being like forward and like aggressive with his like flirtations with her, but like you also don't know if it's like real or not.
But he's also really respective of boundaries.
Yeah, like way more than you would expect some like, morally gray like bad boy to be, but it's like it's a good combination. He just does it well.
And he's protective without being like toxic,
mm-hmm.
toxically, not a word, possessive. Because Feyre and Tamlin are still together. Like
mm-hmm.
they're in a relationship. Like there's no romance at this point in the book between Feyre and Rhys.
Yeah.
But you can see that Rhys cares for Feyre and wants the best for her. So
mm-hmm.
when like she appears, he takes her to the Night Court and she is like starving and not sleeping and
mm-hmm.
clearly not healthy. Like all he wants to do is make her feel better and teach her how to read. Like, come on.
I know. Because it really does seem like he's more of a friend at this point than anything else. Like he's actually worried about her well-being, and he's like, we can like figure out all the other stuff, but like, how about you eat something and
mm-hmm.
work on yourself for a little bit? Which, fair.
Uh-huh. Yep, 100%.
And also during this like first week, we meet Morgan for the first time.
Yes, she is such a cool character.
I know. I feel like it's sometimes hard to write those like super confident, forward women without making them seem like mean girl, pick-me types, but they did it for her.
They did it right. And it helps that she's Rhys's cousin, technically. And she's got her own like traumatic backstory as well.
Yeah.
But she is there to be like Rhys's best friend
mm-hmm.
and his supporter. She's kind of like the Lucian to Rhys. And she also wants to help Feyre.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's nothing to it besides you're here, let me help you.
Yeah. She's like an it girl, the kind that you would hope it girls would be like, that are like girls.
I picture Blake Lively.
Yeah, I did too, but not from Gossip Girl, because
no.
Yeah, Serena Vanderwoodson was not a girl's girl. But the it girl you'd want to, who's like captain of the soccer team, but like lifts up other women but also has a great sense of style and
Yeah, that's more.
Yeah.
Basically.
And it's kind of sad though, because you don't really like get much from her except for like carefree fun in a Pantene commercial.
I love that you're doing these like ponytail hair flips as you're describing more. It's like
I wonder if I'm like a method actor. Like if I got into acting, I would be one of the like crazy ones. Is that where that comes from?
So when we talked about no. This makes me think we need to move up our drunk Shakespeare.
I worry for all of this like porcelain and glass that you have in your house, because I don't know what happens when we're acting and drinking.
Oh.
Hands will be everywhere that they should not.
We'll move into a safe space.
That's fair. Yeah, we'll just kind of baby-proof it. Sad. Anyway, more. And yeah, that's basically spends the week and then goes back.
Yeah, so she practices. Oh, the way Reese teaches her how to read.
It's so cute. But it's also probably not the most effective way because, like, he's only, so he's writing out sentences for her to, like, copy and read. And it's basically like, Lord Rysand
is the most handsome High Lord. Like,
is the most stunning man, is the most courageous. And it's like, well, you're only learning, like, one new word per sentence, but it's cute.
It's cute. It was a good device.
Maybe not effective, but...
And she gets actually somewhat decent at creating these mental shields.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And this is all in the first week. And then she goes home.
So she, like, comes back and basically Tamlin's like, you got yanked away from me. Security's even worse.
Well, and Feyre thinks that she's going to have this, like, lovey-dovey reunion with Tamlin because she's been gone for a week and she missed him. Like, they're still in love. Yeah. And instead of, like, going to the bedroom, which is Feyre's answer, Tamlin takes her to, like, his library study thing with Lucien and proceeds to interrogate her about everything she saw, heard, observed in the night court.
Yeah.
And it feels gross.
Yeah. Like, on the one hand, like, I get it because, like, nobody gets access to the night court, but, like, also that's, like, your, like, to-be wife, lover.
Yeah. Like, how about, like, you don't know what she went through. What if she actually was, like, interrogated and tortured there?
Yeah, or traumatized or XYZ.
Anything. Instead, just tell me what you know. And, like, kudos to Feyre. She doesn't even hesitate, which is the correct answer.
Yeah.
Like, your soon-to-be husband, the love of your life, is help me win this war battle thing that ever's going on and tell me what you know. Or she's going to say something.
Yeah.
Like, we have seen it in other books where they get the story confused. Like, obviously, we know Feyre and Reese are going to be together. But the mistake here would have been, for no valid, rational reason, Feyre refusing.
Yeah, for all of a sudden her thinking they have some kind of, like...
connection.
Yeah.
She just felt icky about talking about Reese that way.
When you say it like that, I appreciate Feyre's. That's like, okay, like, here we go. So this was there and that was there and they were talking about this and this person. Like, that's a reasonable response.
Yeah, it was good. Like,
yeah.
And then,
more,
like you said, more security. But Tamlin tries to win her over by giving her...
like a paint set.
But she hasn't been painting.
No.
She has actively avoided painting because she's depressed, which tracks for somebody with depression.
Yeah.
Not enjoying their hobbies as they used to.
Yep. This is like that middle school thing when your mom would get you, like, gifts and it's like, I haven't done this in, like, 4 years, Mom. Like, you don't know me. And it's like, oh, you said that you like doing painting. Like, so I got you painting things. It's like, just so shows total disconnection from the person that you love.
And Tamlin buys her, like, a traveling paint set. Like, here's a little suitcase with paints and brushes and everything.
Buddy.
No. Not at all.
Yeah.
Except, I forget, what does Feyre say to him that triggers the shit out of him?
I don't know. She says something that's, like, not outrageous, but I could see how it would be triggering to him. Like, something about, like, you can't always protect me, or something like that.
Sounds right. I'm not sure.
So it's not, like, totally outrageous that he'd be triggered by that, but his response was not good.
No, he explodes everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah. Like, the study is destroyed.
Yeah. And the paint set.
Yeah.
And shockingly, Feyre is okay because there is an air shield around her. Like, this was kind of dumb.
Yeah.
It's described as like an air bubble. And again, like, Star Wars reference, the scene in episode 1, which you and I both love. Episode 1 being Phantom Menace. Yes. The purple globe things.
Oh, yeah. It's a purple globe.
Yeah, but that's what I pictured.
Same. Yeah.
Yeah, and, like, you touch it and you bounce off of it. And immediately Feyre thinks that Tamlin put it around her to protect her from his anger. But no, she created it herself.
Yeah, which is kind of sad when you think about it. Like, her first assumption that was he was going to protect her from his own anger, and that really wasn't what had happened.
And also, what would have happened if
that hadn't been?
If she hadn't created a shield?
Oh, she would have been, like, shattered to bits.
Yeah.
Which, again, is, like, a crazy, like, I get anger, like his intention wasn't to hurt her, but like if you're so caught up in trying to protect her, like, but then you're just gonna like freak out and potentially like murder her unintentionally. That was kind of confusing, but
this is the first like true glimpse we have of Feyre having these extra powers that seem to come out of like from not outside of normal high fae fairy magical stuff.
Yeah.
So she's got the mental shield thing going on, and now she's got the air bubble. That's what we shall call it forever and ever. Amen. Star Wars air bubble, people.
Yep. And I think there's a scene like in passing after this where she gets mad and puts her hands on the table and there's like burn marks. So it's like alluded that there's like elemental powers behind it. Maybe aligning to the 7 high courts that all have a special power.
You don't say.
That all donated a piece of themselves.
God.
Sorry.
So dumb.
Yeah. But then life continues on until the I cannot say typhoid.
Typhoid? No, not typhoid.
The tithe, which is like basically, is there like a historical?
I think it's to an extent. Like tithe is like a medieval thing where people would bring like it's like a donation. Like I live on your lands. Here is a payment for me to continue living here. Or I think you could use tithe and like religious tithings.
Yeah,
like here's $1 in the little gold pan that they pass
dish
around
thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's basically what happens, except they like have to give things.
Yes. And so every member of the spring court, the tithe has been like postponed for a few years.
Yeah.
And now that they're having it, it's everyone has to bring like a payment. And the payment is different for everyone. It's like whatever is most valuable to them.
It's like a portion of whatever you have. Because they said like there's like a fisherman guy and he brought like a little basket full of fishies.
Yeah. It doesn't seem like a lot unless you don't have anything.
Yeah. Like this freaky mermaid siren.
Ooh, super cool. I really love the description.
I did too. Yeah.
But like even the setup of the tithe. So it's like a court, and Feyre compares it to a very similar court from Under the Mountain with Tamlin sitting on a little throne with his little crown on, and Ianthe the bitch sitting near him. Like
they call it a receiving room, though. It's not a court.
It's a fucking throne room. Yeah. And Feyre's sitting next to Tamlin, like as the consort type pretty puppet.
Yeah. And then this like freaky mermaid thing comes up and she's like, there's no more fish in my pond, so I can't really bring you anything. And Tamlin's like, I don't care. Like you need to produce 3 times the amount that you needed to bring today or die. Some kind of crazy ultimatum.
I think it was bring your tithe in 3 days or it will be tripled or something like that.
Yeah, that makes more sense than, bring triple or die.
But still it's bad.
Yeah.
You feel for this creature because she's terrifying, like this mermaid siren thing, but she is saying, like you said, there's no fish. I'm starving. My sisters have no food. And Feyre, who was trying to provide food for her sisters, is immediately triggered. Like, this isn't okay.
That's fair.
And so the siren thing is, they call them water wraiths.
Yeah, like some kind of like nymph kind of thing. Yeah.
And so she's like kind of trudges out of the receiving room.
And she's like upset too, because I think Tamlin pulls some kind of like, don't interrupt me when I'm talking to you. And it's like, bro.
Backhanded bitch. And Feyre's like, why can't you just make an exception this one time? And he talks about, that would undermine the whole tradition and history and whatever.
And if I do it this one time, then everybody's going to demand it. And it's like, yeah, sure. But like also.
Yeah. But this is a cool saving grace of Feyre as a character because she runs after the water wraith and like tracks her down in the garden. And like she's still pretty terrified of this creature because
you're scary.
Yeah. I have a fear of ever being underwater, and so this nope. But she's like, what's the amount that you owe? And the wraith answers her like, you wouldn't be able to like come up with that amount of fish, basically. So Feyre takes off all of her jewelry essentially and hands it to her and just says, use this. And the wraith asks like, well, what do you want in return? And Feyre says, nothing, just take it, please, because I feel bad for you.
Yeah. It's cool because like the way she does it is this kind of like frantic, like, here, take my necklace. And like, oh, is that not enough? Like, take my earrings too. Like, take all of it. It's like that crazy scene you always get in movies where they like start like ripping off all of their like jewelry or dresses and they're like, just take it all. Like, I don't want it.
It's the first like glimpse of emotion outside of depression that we've gotten from Feyre in the entire part 1, which is kind of illuminating.
Yeah.
The fact that she is sparked to action and response by seeing someone else in need, which is, as a character, okay.
Yeah.
Redeeming.
Yeah. But it's also this like manic, panicked, terrified, like, just take it.
And the Wraith responds, like, my sisters and I won't forget this moment, which, remember that?
Seriously. Because again, Sarah's power of like foreshadowing,
so
like,
fucking good.
How did you hold on to this thread and keep it in your pocket and then like fucking 80 chapters later it comes back? Like, what?
Yeah.
So yeah, hold it in your pocket for 80 chapters. We'll get back to it. Yeah. And then Tamlin's kind of irritated, but he like comes back around and he's like, yeah, I guess that was like okay. And like it put you in a good light. And like, I get it, but like also don't do that again.
It was a true, like, this was an example of good communication.
Yeah.
Like, good couples communication where he apologized, acknowledged that he was actually wrong and that Feyre did the right thing. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, there's a glimmer of hope here.
Yeah, thank you.
Until things happen.
Yeah, because I think she kind of basically for the next like 2 or 3 weeks goes into this like even more depressive episode where she's kind of like dead inside. And she talks about like not waking up until like noon and then kind of like stumbling around and then going back to bed. And then it's time to go back to the night court. And it's kind of sad because like Rhys has these moments where he's like, come and play with me basically. Because she's like dead inside and she doesn't like report back or like have any, snippy one-liners. And he's like, oh no, like we have reached maybe the point of no return. Like, fuck.
Well, and so her second trip back to the night court, it's kind of mirrors the first one because I think it happens like right around now.
Yeah,
because there's 3.
I think there's maybe 3, but the second one is kind of like scooted past. But it's this one. This is like the last like trip, and then like the events happen.
Yeah, well, and it's on this trip I think where she goes back after being back in the spring court for 3 weeks, and Rhys has that expression come over his face again, which is, have they not been fucking feeding you like while you were there? Like, what happened?
Yeah, because this is the hallway one, right? Where like they just had a tumble in the sheets and then he like pops up.
Oh my God, I forgot about that. I know. Because, okay, so Feyre forgot about, like, so much time passed. She's kind of living in a blur. And so, like, she hears voices outside of her bedroom door in the middle of the night. And so she's naked. Yep. Because she and Tamlin were, having fun.
Yeah, no, having fun.
A little fun. And so she, like, gets out of bed, wraps herself in, like, a cover and, like, opens the door a crack and peers out. And there's Rhys and Tamlin, like,
the way this is described, because you have Rhys who has this like cocky, like shit-eating, like, I'm just fucking making fun of you. I'm here to bring your like girlfriend back with me. Like, get fucked, bro. And then he sees her around the corner and his face falls and he's like, oh,
I can't get over how Sarah describes Rhys's emotions and expressions when he's looking at Feyre. You're like, can someone look at me?
I know. Because it's just so, I think that's kind of like the alluring part of it is someone's paying so much attention to you that they notice like small, minute changes of like, oh, you've lost like 10 pounds. Like, that's not good. You don't have 10 pounds.
Yeah, because Feyre, like, obviously just got out of bed from Tamlin, but she looks like she's dying.
Yeah.
Because it's been 3 weeks and she's, again, not eating and not sleeping. And the only thing she's really doing is fucking, and that's doing wonderful things for her, obviously.
And it's cool because that's exactly what's conveyed. Like, Rhys is so mad that it's like, you're having sex and enjoying like Feyre, but you're not feeding her. Like, you don't see that she's like,
you're just using
on
her.
The brisk of dying or risk of
you know what I mean? On the brisk of dying. That might be an episode.
That's
quote.
fair. That's fair. What is that phrase?
On the brink.
Oh.
I don't know.
Makes way more sense.
I don't know what other words you were trying to come up with.
I don't know. Yeah, on the brink of dying. Yeah. And so he's like, you're coming with me. And he just like yanks her. And then it's like, okay, we're going.
Yeah.
I think she puts clothes on first, but the feeling is the same.
It's interesting that she saved her night court clothes in her closet, put them back on to go back to the night court. Like, that's your glimmer of like, oh, no, she's done. We're just going to get to the point where she's done.
Yep. Yeah.
But like, it's still like another week that goes by and she's just reading and practicing and having these kind of bantering sessions with Rhys.
And you can tell that he like doesn't really want to bring her back. Like, that he's like, oh, you kind of like got some like light back in you, but now I have to bring you back and you're like, I don't know what's going to happen. Like, are you going to last 3 weeks? And it's sad because kind of like basically like doesn't. She almost doesn't last 3 weeks.
No. So the week passes. She returns to the spring court, and some time goes by, and then it's like these weeks at the night court have given her a little bit of extra strength and resilience to fight back and push back a little bit more with Tamlin.
Yeah.
Because she asked him again to go on a ride with him. Like he's going on a hunt or a patrol or something.
Yeah.
And he's like, obviously not. And she's like, I'm going.
Yeah.
Whether you say I can go or not, I will just go. And that is the trigger for...
This is so traumatizing because, like, I can't imagine what my response would be. It would immediate claustrophobia.
We didn't talk about that. So Feyre has, like, it seems like the sister to claustrophobia.
Yeah.
Because she feels at home in the night court because there's no windows, there's no doors, it's just looking out onto the landscape. But in the spring court, it's like a castle.
Yeah.
And there's places with no windows or limited windows. And she doesn't like being inside because it reminds her of Under the Mountain.
Yeah. And then he does the worst possible thing for someone experiencing that kind of emotions. And he basically, like, creates a force field around the house, and she's stuck inside. And she cannot even put her hand out a window.
Locks her ass up.
Ugh. And it's the visceral, like, descriptions of Feyre's emotions during this scene are almost hard to read. Because you see the full, like, from start to finish of her basic, like, meltdown.
She goes from like scared to like can't think she's in so much terror. And she starts out by like trying the windows and trying the doors, and like as she's frantically trying these things, she starts getting more and more like in her own head until she falls apart. Yeah, basically. And it's kind of described as like swallowed by darkness.
Yeah,
is how she feels.
Yeah,
but it's also what happens.
Yeah, physically, because it's kind of like a manifestation of all of her powers start to like go haywire, which understandable if you're going through a little bit of like emotional turmoil. And it basically like not destroys the house, but like the house is fucked up. And then she blacks out.
And she's just in darkness.
Yep.
Until she hears somebody like screaming her name.
Yeah.
Over and over and over again. Like it's like she's underwater and she hears like this muted screaming. And she recognizes one of those voices as Alice from, ACOTAR. She's still around, the sweet but spicy, like maid elf type.
Got a little spice to her.
Yeah. And then Feyre recognizes that there are arms that like pick her up underneath her, like what's that carry called? Like a cradle carry?
Bridal carry?
Yeah, like that.
But the conversation she hears in the background is so
my God, please.
Yeah. So like Alice is like basically like just take care of her, like you see what's going on. And then there's a female voice that responds because you kind of assume that it's going to be Rhys. And I think this is such a good
way to do it.
It's actually more. And she's like, you guys are fucking outrageous. Do you not see that she's dying? And Alice is like, just take care of her. Like, I'll figure this out. Like, just do it the right way. And more kind of like bitches out Alice. She's like, I'm going to take her. Like, we did this the right way. Like, there's nothing you can do. She needs to be helped, and you're not doing anything. And Alice is like, I get it, but also it's cool because she's not like, oh, you need to get out of the spring court house. Like, you don't belong here. She's like, can you please take Feyre? Like, she needs help.
I'm not sure if it's in this particular scene, but I think more to something along the lines of, did you really think like those flimsy shields would keep us out? Like Rhys snapped those shields with half a thought, and you're like, oh, the power behind that.
And also, what a big dick move. Like, you didn't have to say that, but you just, like, added it on.
Yeah.
It was just amazing. And then she gets picked up and then winnowed away. And then I think she even gets, like, shifted over to Rhys at some point.
So, like, they winnow into, like, a cave.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And she starts to panic, and then
she's transferred into Rhys's waiting arms.
And then they make something of, like, you did everything by the book.
Yeah.
And Moore's like, I know, you said to do it the right way and I did it that way. And he's like, good, because XYZ, I can't afford a war, but like we had to save her XYZ.
Yeah.
Yeah. But wow.
And then she is back in the night court. Yeah. That was a lot.
Yeah. But also that whole scene is just so like,
it's a rescue scene. It's always a rescue scene. There was one in ACOTAR. There was this one.
Yeah. Which is kind of a bummer because we're supposed to get like a strong female heroine. But it's also nice that it's countered with like Moore being the one to actually like go and get her.
That's our strong female heroine right there. It's like she charged from the night court into the spring court, took out a bunch of guards.
Yeah, like irrelevant. Maybe no, the other one. Not irregardless.
Irreverent?
Yeah. Beautiful.
I did try.
Of like her own safety, she's like, I gotta get like my new friend. Like we don't really know each other, but like that's fucked up. I'm gonna come and help you. Because it could have been like not a trap, but like she could have been bamboozled by a bunch of guards or XYZ scary things. And she's like, fuck it. Gotta help out Feyre. Snag her up. Let's go.
And I love that it's 2 women saving Feyre. It's Alice, who called in the guards, basically, and Moore.
Yeah, that is kind of fun. So even though it was like Feyre had to be rescued, it's at least countered with rescued by 2 women.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah,
and then I mean, she's at the night court. There's obviously so much more that happens.
Yeah, there is.
This honestly reads like a prologue.
Huh? It kind of does, but like a really like
a prologue to A Court of Mist and Fury or an epilogue for ACOTAR.
Yeah. Like a really, really robust one, but like 100%.
I know. 3%.
Again, why? Why do we have the sex scene at 3%?
So that is the end of our like synopsis of this part. But I have 3 points I need to talk about. Just 3 like those of episode notes that somewhat triggered me. So, point 1.
She's like doing her prim hands. Like, this is going to be some juicy shit, y'all.
The number of fucking times that Sarah Maas uses the description vulgar hand gesture over and over and over again. Okay.
Because what does that mean?
It means the middle finger, but like whatever they do in Fairyland, that means the same thing. That means F you.
Yeah. Because that's what I thought too, but it's almost alluded to as if there's like different ones, which is confusing because like I only really know one.
But it's used as like a comedic foil.
Yeah.
And it was so overdone.
Yeah.
Over and over. Like you have nothing else. Like nothing else.
Yeah. And it's also kind of interesting because like, have you flipped anyone off like recently?
It feels,
yes, vulgar, but like, not comedic.
No.
You know what I mean?
It feels like you're gonna get shot.
Yeah, like you're gonna like punch someone. Like it feels like throwing down the gauntlet. Like it's not like funny, like haha, fuck you. It's like no, that's those like, are fighting words.
It's like early 2000s humor that has just aged out.
Yeah, that 100%. That's like hands down what it is.
Yeah, and I didn't. Maybe once or twice can be funny.
Yeah.
Because you can visualize it. We all know what that means.
Yeah.
It just felt every other page there was a vulgar hand gesture. I'm just over it.
Yeah. I have heard that as a critique of like Sarah's writing in general as she kind of reuses things. Because like growled and then
snarled,
the vulgar gesture. And then she has another that she like uses all the time that just kind of feels out of place. And like, okay, I've heard this like 17 times and I don't really still understand what it means.
Yeah.
Okay, so point 1, spicy but accurate.
Point 2 is a compliment, actually.
Oh,
I like to mix up my good and bad stuff.
You're making a Oreo of compliments.
It's a happy sandwich.
Or I think it's...
Oh, but it's the opposite.
Yeah.
It's like a shitty sandwich because the one with the middle part is good.
Yeah, the Oreo because like the inside is tasty. But, you know, we'll leave that to imagination.
No. Okay, so early on, this is before she goes to the night court at all. She's having an interaction with Tamlin where she's like, hey, take me with you on the hunt. And he's like, no, don't. And so he says, I love you. So yeah, Tamlin said it quietly. And Feyre just nods.
I did
in
see
return.
This.
And she never, I was looking for it. She never tells Tamlin, I love you. Ever. Oh. Not that I saw. And so someone please correct me if I'm wrong.
I don't think so.
Yeah. So she never says that in this book. She acknowledges feeling love for Tamlin, but she never responds. She didn't respond to that one. She just nods. And I thought that was very well done because she also did the same thing in ACOTAR.
She did?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's crazy because like now even thinking back, like when she talks about Tamlin, she talks about being in love with him and like her love for Tamlin, but like she never
says I love you back to Tamlin.
Sarah, you saucy dog. Sorry. That feels the most accurate.
Saucy dog. I love that.
Because that's so impressive. Like, to
Yeah.
have the foresight or, like, sneakiness to,
Like, what great character writing.
yeah.
Like, if that's favorite, like, we have confirmed that Feyre is not our favorite.
Mm-hmm.
But this is well done.
Yeah.
At least,
Yeah, I think that you can have a really well-written book and still have a character that's kind of, like, mid. Like, this is, like, expertly, technically, really well done. But maybe some of the, like, parts are kind of, like, questionable. But, like, technically speaking, like, whew, baby.
yeah.
What was your third point?
So going back to our shitty Oreo, we talked about this already.
The toilets?
The toilets.
Okay, I was hoping. I was like, I'm going to have to bring in a fourth point.
It's the toilets.
It's the toilets. So Jordan and I had a whole conversation
We
about
had a meltdown over the toilets.
It was. It included, like, sources referenced and, like, time frames. So we basically kind of came to the, like, tentative conclusion that if there's toilets, there should be guns.
Yeah.
And if there's not guns, why are there toilets?
Or the alternative would be to call the toilets another name.
Yeah.
I think that was, I was surprised you brought it up because you noticed the modernisms.
Yeah.
Throughout.
That's normally Jordan's kind of trigger. And I think because I know that about you now that I, like, look for him. Because there was the toilet and then there was another one. Oh, it was a phrase about Rhys, like, going to the mat for his beliefs. And I'm like, that's like 2000s. Like,
So there's a lot of that, like, sprinkled through.
Yeah.
And my problem is not having modern technology in these fantasy settings because, as we learned, toilets were invented when?
the fucking, like, 1500s,
Like,
for
a
Queen
flushing
Elizabeth
toilet.
the First. Like, I had it up and then I lost it. But it was way earlier than you would assume. And the first flushable toilet was the 1850s.
Okay, so again, reasonable in the setting. Just call it something else.
Yeah.
Like the porcelain bowl, a toilet. Like, it just doesn't...
Hole in the ground?
It doesn't jive. Like, even reusing a more historical term for any of these modern technologies that you want to throw in a book would be reasonable. I think it's less jarring.
Yeah. Because I kind of had a moment where I was like, they have toilets? Like, what else do they have that they just haven't talked about? Like, he has a fucking, like, automobile parked in his garage.
Right. And it's some of this, like, the speech patterns too. Like, the dialogue seems a little, it seems modern and it seems a little young and repetitive.
Yeah.
Which is not the best writing.
Yeah. Porcelain toilets. Or even if it was just, like, a wood toilet or, like,
anything.
But to specifically say porcelain toilet.
And then flush, like,
yeah.
It's
the
just
action of flushing.
The way she described the scene is just,
Yeah. Though I guess that does kind of happen throughout this book because they have a townhouse that has, like, a flushing toilet and, like, bedrooms and...
Yeah, that whole city, we'll get to it in part 2, is described as very modern.
Yeah. But, like, how does that work if you don't have guns?
I mean...
I guess maybe you don't need guns. But if they're using swords...
The thing is, like, why did guns develop? Oh, bow and arrow sucks. We need a long-distance range weapon.
Yeah.
So what's the answer to that?
Yeah. And they had fireworks, because didn't they talk about fireworks somewhere in the first one or the second one?
Yeah. A lot of the times, the answer to, like, why don't guns exist in a fantasy world? Oh, we have magic. It's fine. Like, that's your distance weapon.
Like, I guess, but, like, I find it hard to believe. Or even, like, what's another thing that was invented in the 1800s that is equivalent to toilets?
I don't know. But
electricity?
I think that's...
Because they kind of allude to, like, lights turning on, but...
Or how does she have hot water?
Yeah, plumbing, modern plumbing.
So again, the whole gun thing. Like, even if they didn't have guns in Perithian and fantasy fairyland, the humans would have had it.
Yeah.
Why is she hunting with a bow and arrow?
So many questions. Yeah.
Anyway, so that's the Oreo.
See, that's what happens when you have porcelain toilets. Like, you open yourself up to a whole kind of,
you open
like...
yourself up to a bunch of shit. That's what happens.
Oh my God. I'm doing that laugh where you can't breathe. Wow. That was so fucking fast and, like, sniped out of the sky. Like, how did... I'm so impressed of... wow.
You delivered it to me, though.
We were playing t-ball and I just set that ball on the thing and you fucking...
That's the only kind of sport I can
show
play
hate it. God damn. Wow. We need to stop.
Readers,
because
can you please appreciate the sports reference she just made?
Okay, so I don't understand any of the sports balls, but baseball, I have recently weirdly developed some kind of knowledge of.
She knows so much about it. She knows players. She has a jersey.
Which is so weird because for the first 20 several decades of my life, no interest, no anything, no knowledge, no foresight, no nothing. But weirdly, baseball. Probably because Shohei's hot.
I still haven't seen a picture of him.
Girl, what? Google.
Okay.
After this episode.
All right. That's a good place to stop.
Yeah.
So
we did it.
We have 3 more parts to go.
Wow. Yeah.
It's going to be a ride.
Woo! That it will be.
From our shelf to yours.
We'll see you on the next page. Hi, readers. If you'd like to help us pick our next book, send us a message on Instagram.
Or if you'd like to just listen, we post new episodes every Monday and Wednesday on Spotify, Apple, and Amazon. Thanks for listening.
Bussin'.